What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. It's time for the Primer Show. It's early this week. Obviously, we do the regular game week show on Mondays, but since the game is on Thursday, we've kind of moved everything up. The game week show is on Thursday. If you missed that, you can go back and watch that as well. But today we're going to be talking with Connor Goodson. We're going to be answering your questions. We're going to break down the depth chart that was just released, some of the things that Sam Pittman said out of his Monday press conference. I was there for that. And we're going to talk about, the UAPB game, but we're also going to talk about the season coming as well. We'll get to your questions also if we have time. All that more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. Of course, there's plenty of ways to watch and listen to the show. Apple Podcasts, where I want to say before we get started, thanks to everybody for answering the call and leaving the reviews. We got over 1,000 of them. We're at, I think, 1,014 now, which, by the way, as far as I can tell, makes us not only the highest rated podcast out of Arkansas, but also the most rated podcast out of Arkansas, which is pretty rare. I mean, usually if you have a lot, you're going to go down a little bit. So to be a 4.9 on Apple Podcasts, certainly very excited. Really appreciate everybody doing that. And I guess even the 1-star people helped us get to 1,000. So thank you, I guess, for that. But plenty of ways to watch and listen. Of course, we're on Facebook. Be one of 90,000+ Razorback fans to follow our Facebook page. Follow me on X. Follow Danny, Connor, all of our guys on X. Of course, the Hawg Sports channel, and we're streaming on X also. On YouTube, throw us a like, thumbs up, whatever it is. Set the notifications so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. And we're even on, we're not on Instagram because I always forget. Instagram's different. Instagram, you have to go in manually and hit go live separately. All right, now we're live on Instagram. So streaming a lot of different places now. So throw us the thumbs ups and the likes and the interactions and stuff. We really appreciate all that. And again, a special thanks to everybody who took some time to give us that rating and a ton of people who left a review also. Really appreciate it. So, okay, where do we start? A lot of interesting stuff to say. I think one of the more interesting things out of the press conference with Sam Pittman was the Patrick Kutas status. Of course, any injury news is always important news, but it just looked more and more, obviously, from the second day when he started missing practice till not coming back for any of the scrimmages, never strapping on pads, that it was looking pretty serious with his back. And he's not necessarily done for the season. They're going to have an MRI, I believe, on Friday when they get back after the game, and kind of go from there, figure out where things stand. But I thought it was interesting with Sam Pittman, and I've cut up a little bit of his press conference today so we can get some of the highlights. But I thought it was interesting him saying about Marion Harris that he's not just actually a question that I asked him. He's not number 5. He might be 3, maybe 4. I'm not sure exactly where he sits, is what he said, but he's not 5. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe they feel like their 2 tackles are 1 and 2, which is why he was behind them initially. So feeling good about Marion Harris, Sam Pittman is, and a couple other injury notes. Andrew Armstrong looks, if I had to guess, Andrew Armstrong's not playing. If Pittman even mentioned him today as not playing, I saw the practice where he pulled his hamstring. It was the first play on a one-on-one drill, and he jumped straight up in the air, just like a hamstring injury. And so I would expect if anybody is like that, like they could play if it was a really good team, then they would, but against UAPB, probably not. So I don't think we'll see him. I don't think we'll see Rashad Dubinion. Rashad Dubinion apparently is a little beat up. So I don't think we'll see him either. And a couple of interesting depth chart news items was Anton Junkaj and Nico Davier continuing to battle there at one of the end spots, the left end side. Let's see, TJ Metcalf and Hudson Clark listed as oars. And let's look at this depth chart a little bit. Let's look at that real quick. So the official depth chart was released. I had it written out, and I told Dan, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be at the press conference when they put it out. Make the changes, and and it's good to go." So obviously, Taylor Green, Malachi Singleton, KJ Jackson, Blake Boda is the order at quarterback. Rashad Dubinion or Jaquindon Jackson. Not sure exactly. Rashad Dubinion or Jaquindon Jackson, and then Braylon Russell or Rodney Hill. But we know it's going to be Jaquindon Jackson, and then next Rodney Hill, and then we'll see who's after that. But those are going to be the first 2 backs in, according to Sam Pittman. I think it'll probably, if they're at the goal line and Jackson's gassed or something, it's not going to be Rodney Hill, So situational also. Monty Harrison listed as a number 2 wide receiver. Number 2. Really surprising. Not dramatically surprising, but a little bit surprising to see, a 29-year-old freshman walk-on with the second group right there. Wide receiver Isaiah Satania is expected, backed up by Isaac Tesla. Shoffrey Brown in there. I didn't expect to see that. Tyrone Broden, and then followed by Jordan Anthony or C.J. Brown. Jordan Anthony's kind of been rising up the depth chart, according to Sam Pittman. Luke has at tight end, Marquise Gums, Ty Washington, Andreas Puska. No surprises on the offensive line, although they do have Patrick Kudus or Marion Harris, which prompted me to ask Sam Pittman about that. Joshua Braun, Keyshawn Blackstock, no big surprises there. Obviously, Orr with Nico and Anton, Cam Ball, Eric Gregory. I thought one of the more interesting things he said out of the press conference also, because we've been kind of talking like, hey, they're too deep, and I think they are too deep. I think they've got guys that can go in there, in quality, but not as deep as they were last year. But at the same time, Pittman, the way he talks, like, Landon Jackson doesn't just have a backup that's just like, is good. If Landon Jackson, I would think, like if he's like 80% after he's a little tired, you put a fresh guy in who's as good as he is at 80%, and let him get rest and stuff. But he kind of said the same thing about Cam Ball. We've talked about Cam Ball as a little bit of a guy that, might have next level ability, but it's not just like even Steven, team A and team B. There's the first group, and there's, June Kaj and Davier kind of battling over there. And I think they feel good about Quincy Rose, but it's like not like Ian Gerard or Kiwi Rose. I don't think they feel like they're just like, plug them in. But, Kiwi Rose played a lot of football for him last year also. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the season. Linebacker, Xavier Sori, and Brad Spence, of course. We'll see Stephen Dix also. When they run that mint front, it'll be Stephen Dix. It's not listed on the depth chart, but it'll be Stephen Dix, Xavier Sori, Brad Spence down the line of scrimmage. And then Marquise Robinson or Jaheim Singletary or Keon Stewart. They're not really settled there at that spot, according to this. So still some stuff to shake out there. And then, of course, you got on the other side with Jalen Braxton, backed up by Selman Bridges. And then Jaden Johnson, Hudson Clark. It's Jaden Johnson, at boundary safety, and then Hudson Clark or TJ Metcalf. So that's an interesting development. We've been kind of following that along, too, with TJ Metcalf, supposedly one of the most, or not, if maybe the most improved guy on the defensive side of the ball. Matthew Shipley or Kyle Ramsey. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Shipley. Another thing I thought there was Eli Stein or Ashton Ngo. I'm not sure how to say the last name. It's NGO, but as long snapper, I think maybe they have different roles as long snapper. One maybe for punt, one maybe for PAT field goal. Devin Bales, the punter. Oh, this is, you got to mention the return guys. So you've got Isaiah Satania and Rodney Hill, and then Isaiah Satania and Jalen Braxton. Isaiah and Rodney at kick, and then punt is Satania and Jalen Braxton. So some interesting stuff there. I really think there's some interesting things on the offensive line, what he was saying about Marion Harris. And, if you've got problems with getting online, then you should check out our friends at Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go, based out of Northwest Arkansas, a local company. You can reach them at 479-684-4900, or you can go to their website, which they probably prefer, ozarksgo.net/hog. I would prefer, because you get the referral with Hog, and you can use the promo code. If you're a first-time customer, you can use the promo code BIDDY1. That's BIDDY1. And, you get a month free for that if you're a first-time customer. So, I've used Ozarks Go for 3 years. I was actually using them before they became a sponsor of the show, and been very pleased. I never have outages. I mean, it just hums. And I've had several other, I think 3 other different internet service providers in the last 20 years or whatever. And man, these guys to me have been outstanding. Great customer service, local people. You're not going to ship off to some call center. If you try to call the number 479-684-4900, you're going to talk to somebody local who knows the area. So find out if they're available in your area. They're ever expanding. Think north of the tunnel, out into Rogers, parts of Oklahoma. So go check out our friends at ozarksgo.net/hog if you're interested in improving your internet service. You like that segue? I nailed that segue from the offensive line if you're having trouble getting online. All right. Hey, let's check out Sam Pittman's video. So I cut this up a little bit. We're not going to watch the whole thing, obviously. It's about 3 minutes and 45 seconds of just the key components of the press conference. You had Patrick Kudus listed first team or with a Marion Harris.
Yeah.
How's that situation playing?
I don't believe Patrick will play, but I'll say this too, and we'll miss him because he's a good player and back's still bothering him. But Marion Harris has had an outstanding camp, and I don't know that there'll be any drop off there. I think he's not five, Trey. If you were going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's not five. I don't know where he's at. I don't know if he's 3. I don't know if he's 4, but he's not 5.
Kudus, do you think like this could be a short-term thing, or how do you feel about his availability past you?
He's going to get a reading on his back on Friday, and then we'll know a little bit more about it after that. But he has, he's progressed from things in the pool to things on land now, to a little bit of hitting. So we're going to get this MRI read, and then I'll have a better answer for you on next time we meet, I guess next Monday. The depth there at running back, I look for Jaquanin to be our starter there, and then we'll go after that. Probably Rodney Hill would be the second guy in the game, and then R-Dub has been beat up a little bit, so he hadn't practiced at full speed consistently over the last 10 days. So Rodney's done a really good job. We feel like we have 5 backs that can really play. So, but probably in order of going in the game, that would be 1 and 2, and then we figure out how Rashad is at practice today, and whether that be him or Braylon probably going in there. And probably the only one would be Armstrong, left, whether he's practiced every day, but whether he is full speed or not, we'll have to wait probably until Thursday night to find that out. But he has practiced every day and just hasn't really practiced a complete practice. I can be honest with you and tell you both HUD and TJ have played really well, and so has Nico and Anton, which is a good thing. A lot of times you have battles and you're trying to find one that's good. Both those battles are between 2 really good players, and they both will play, all 4. And we've got to stop the stretch play. The quarterback is athletic, so he can throw and pass. They don't have a lot of guys coming back. I like their left tackle. They have a center and a left tackle. Their left tackle, Christian Love, he's a good player. Schematically, they're going to throw the bubble. They're going to run their quarterback. I expect some RPO type situations out of them. They've got good team speed. We've got to stop the bubble screen, and we got to stop the stretch. And that's what they did, I thought, very well last year. Defensively, I haven't seen a lot of pressure out of them. Now, I'm talking about Grambling, what their coordinator did at Grambling, their offensive coordinator last year. That's what he did. Defensively, they have the same coordinator back. They base out of a 4-man line, a field under G. Not a ton of movement. I expect to see more movement. Not a ton of blitzing. I expect to see more of that. So we are taking what we saw from them last year and amping it up. We're very rarely running anything against a base front because we're expecting some type of movement. Zone team, not a lot of man coverage out of them, but very, very well coached, and they play extremely hard.
All right, that's Sam Pittman. Just cut that up a little bit, just try to get some of the highlights out of the press conference. He usually goes about 30 minutes on Monday, so just a little snippet there. And, hey, look ahead a little bit too. Obviously this UAPB game is important. It's the first game, but we're able to look ahead. I can look ahead all I want. I'm not a coach or a player. I see fans sometimes say, hey, we got to focus on it. Not really. Like, what we think is not going to impact the game. So we can look ahead a little bit. Obviously, that Oklahoma State game looms large. It's going to be a long period of time because, we'll be watching everybody play Saturday after Arkansas dispatches UAPB. We'll be able to sit around and watch games on Saturday. Oklahoma State plays, I believe, South Dakota State, which is a good FCS program. So that'll be really interesting to watch. Probably a good game to break down. Also, I've got that number 1 on my list of most top 10 pivotal games for Arkansas. Somebody asked me, a Wizard of Hogs asked me to do a breakdown percentage-wise of each game, like Arkansas's percentage chance to win. And it's going to change throughout the season, but I'll try to do that because he is a loyal member on there, and I appreciate him. I would say I would give Arkansas maybe a 40% chance because they are the away team. I don't think this game is unattainable for Arkansas. Now, we're going to learn a lot about them after UAPB, even though UAPB, they should, again, win easily that one. But I think Arkansas has a decent chance to beat Oklahoma State. In fact, I believe Danny West picked Arkansas to beat Oklahoma State. And our preseason predictions still only picked them to win 6 games, but picked them in there. Number 2 most pivotal game, I think, is Missouri, because bowl eligibility could be on the line the way I've got the season playing out. So if Missouri is that pivotal, I've got them at number 2. What's Arkansas's chances of winning in Columbia? 25% maybe. I've said before, the first time that Arkansas beats Missouri in Columbia, I will not have picked them to do that, because I'm not picking them to win in Columbia until they do it. 25%, 20%. I don't know. Missouri's top 11. I don't think that they're unbeatable, but I mean, they smoked Arkansas last year. Of course, they didn't have KJ, but still, they would have beat them anyway, no matter how easy their schedule is. September 28th, number 3, Texas A&M. That's my 3rd most pivotal game. Arkansas needs to go in there and win. I've got them picked to win that one. I'm going to give them a 50% chance, 55% chance, something like that, to go into Texas A&M and win. The reason I think that is I think Mike Elko is a really good coach. Okay, I do. It's also his first year there. There's a huge bit of culture change and all that kind of stuff. The Bobby Petrino factor, having coached there last year. Bobby Petrino was 3-0 at Arkansas as the head coach against Texas A&M before things just fell apart in that series. So I've given Arkansas maybe a slight edge in that one. October 5th versus Tennessee. This one could depend so much on what happens ahead. Like if they go 0-3 in these tough games, Tennessee's on a bye week before, they could let go of the rope. I mean, it's bonded and all this stuff as you hear about this team. They could do that. Looking at it right now without all that stuff, going on my projections that they win one of those games. I'm going to give Arkansas, since they're the home team, a 40% chance to beat Tennessee as the home team. There's a lot of like 40s and 30s in there for some reason for me. Mississippi State in Starkville, I give Arkansas a 65% chance to win this one. I don't think Mississippi State's a very good team. Not that they can't be with Jeff Lebby, but it's just, again, it's that 1-year factor, a changeover, a whole lot. You know, they had the air raid offense, then they go to more of a defensive system, and now they're going to the veer and shoot, which is, you know, Kendall Briles' offense. The Briles' offense is what they're going to be running over there. But I think it'll maybe take them a little bit of time. But I think Arkansas should win that game regardless of what happens. I've got them picked to win the game. At Auburn is number 6 on my list. Percentage, I'm doing this all just like off the top of my head. I don't have it written down. I haven't like processed it. I'm just like processing it in front of you. I would give Arkansas about a 30%, 35% chance of winning at Auburn, just because of all the stuff that happens there all the time. Getting stuck in the elevator, you know, balls getting stripped before they pass the goal line that are ruled a touchdown, even on review, balls getting spiked backwards that are fumbles, being called no immediate recovery, even though there's an immediate recovery. Something always happens there, right? So it is what it is. Number 7, Arkansas Ole Miss in Fayetteville. I would give Arkansas, with what Ole Miss has right now, you have to consider that Lane Kiffin has never won in Fayetteville. I'm going to give Arkansas a 40% chance in that one. 35, maybe. Definitely not favoring them to win that. But Arkansas, for whatever reason, Ole Miss has brought better teams into Fayetteville than Arkansas has had under Kiffin, and Arkansas has won. So something about it, I don't know. Arkansas, in turn, has never won at Oxford against Kiffin. Number 8, Arkansas versus LSU. 25% chance. I think LSU is going to be pretty good this year. I don't have them picked to win that one. Same deal at Texas, 25% chance at home against Texas the next week. I got them number 9. And I've got number 10, Arkansas and Louisiana Tech, just because you got the 9 tough games and you got to pick somebody, right? But Louisiana Tech, you know, Arkansas, last time they played them, if you guys remember, 2016, I think Arkansas was looking ahead to TCU. And these guys, I mean, it was a 21-20 game. Like, it was close. Arkansas had to have a big play on defense. I think like everybody sacked that quarterback, Dietrich Wise, and everybody sacked the quarterback basically to win the game. But it was 21-20. Arkansas won. The bonus would be UAPB. It's the first game of the season. Anyway, Louisiana Tech could give Arkansas a 90% chance of winning this game. I'm doing that because we had a special request and wanted to honor that. And I just feel like, you know, I can give preseason looks, but it's going to change a lot. My opinion will change a lot after this game, after this UAPB game. UAPB starting Mekhi Hagans at quarterback. Hagans played for them last year. They had a couple of guys, Jalen Macon also. But this guy's athletic, dual threat type. You heard Sam Pittman talking about him. His last game was against Texas Southern. He went 15 to 37 to 193 yards, ran 11 times for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also threw for a touchdown. So he can get it done both ways. He is a junior, 6'3", 204 pounds. And he was just recently named the starter. So notable. Okay. Couple poll questions, and then we're going to get to Connor Goodson. So we did the poll questions. We do this every year, and I thought it was really interesting to look back on the polls that we did last year also and see how wrong everybody was, because they were. Last year, so we asked total offense, like Taylor Green, how much total offense he's going to have. Last year, everybody was wrong on KJ Jefferson. I'm not going to go over all this, but you can go check it out. It's on the front page of HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Everybody was wrong on KJ Jefferson last year. Jacoby Criswell, everybody predicted like 3 to 4 possessions that he would get. He got 1. He came in early in the fourth quarter, and they went down and scored, I believe. And then, no. Did they score? This is against Western Carolina. I believe they scored, yeah. And then Western Carolina's next possession, Brad Spence picked it off, went 85 yards for a touchdown, and then Western Carolina got the ball back, and Arkansas never got it. So he only had 1 possession last year. Arkansas fans think Malachi Singleton this year will get 3 to 4 possessions. So what would happen ideally is you jump out on these guys. It's a huge margin. And you rehearse with your first group, this is how we're going to come out. And you come out and you play a series. You march it down the field and score, and then that's it. And the only reason you do that, even if it's a blowout, is to have that experience of this is how we're coming out of halftime. And that's the only reason you wouldn't just put the backups in right out of the gate. Offensive newcomer to watch. Last year's offensive newcomer to watch was Isaac TeSlaa in the first game. He had 66 yards on 3 catches and a touchdown, but the guy who you really should have picked, who only got 14% of the vote, was Andrew Armstrong. 5 catches, 78 yards, and a score. This year, people are most excited to see Taylor Green. Jaquindon Jackson would be next. That's offensive. Defensive guy, more subjective. Last year, 50% of the vote went to Jaheim Singletary. No, excuse me. Trajan Jeffcoat, 50% went to Trajan Jeffcoat. The next most was 21.8 for Jaheim Singletary. Brad Spence probably was the guy. I mean, he had the pick 6, the 85-yard pick 6. There's a lot of guys. You had, I think 4 interceptions, so any of those guys could have, who might have been a newcomer, I guess. This year, everybody wants to see Xavier Sorey. Xavier Sorey getting 45.6% of the vote. What will be the first drive result? Nobody looked in their crystal ball last year and saw Jaden Wilson's going to catch a pass for a 63-yard touchdown on the second play. Nobody saw that. They all picked a rushing touchdown. This year, everybody picking a rushing touchdown too. 44.74% says that. The first score, everybody picked Raheem Sanders last year, 66.9%. This year, everybody's saying Jaquindon Jackson. Not as big a margin, 39.43% will be the first score. The leading receiver for Arkansas last year, again, that was 65 yards, not 83, not 63, because he had 83 yards. I was thinking he had 85. But Jaden Wilson, nobody picked him as the leading receiver for Arkansas last year. Who was the pick? Isaac TeSlaa. This year, leading receiver pick, Andrew Armstrong. Not going to be him, as we found out today. I mean, he's almost certainly sitting out this game. So it's not going to be Andrew Armstrong. So this one's already wrong. The second most vote getter is Luke Hasz, which I think I would go with that maybe. UAPB total offense. Last year, I think people were wrong. 41.5%, had 249 yards, and they went 291 yards last year. So right now, people are saying 249 yards. That's 50% of the vote. Defensive MVP, people think it'll be Landon Jackson. Probably, yeah, it could have been McLaughlin, Hudson Clark, Jaden Johnson, or Brad Spence last year. But people think it'll be Landon Jackson. Overwhelming 63.1% say Landon. And the game result, we just looked at Bet Saracen. So the last year's line in the Western Carolina game was like 35 points on Bet Saracen. This year's line has gone from 54.5 all the way down to 49.5 on Bet Saracen. So I just did, will Arkansas win by 50 or more, or will they win by 50 or less? 73.14% are saying they will win by 50 points or less than 50 points. 2 Yahoos say UAPB wins. Yeah, 73% thinks Arkansas will not cover 50 points. And then if you guys can remember, when they played them in 2021, it was 45-3. This was in the middle of the season. It wasn't in the opener. It was 45-0, excuse me. In the second half, they used a running clock. They just let the clock run. And UAPB scored a field goal to make it 45-3. Arkansas didn't score. They weren't very happy with their second group. Okay, Connor Goodson. Those of you who don't follow Connor, you should. Connor does a great job. Connor's our lead basketball writer, covers football. He was there with me for every one of the open practices at fall camp. He was there for all the spring football practices. So he knows what he's talking about. If you don't follow him, you can at Connor Goodson, at ConnorGoodson on Twitter. Does a great job for us. If I can bring up his contact here. Where you at, Connor? Here we go. Connor will be there in Little Rock, sitting beside me for the game. Connor, how's it going, man?
What's up, Trey?
Oh, not much. We're just talking.
It is game week. It is game week, man. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm freaking excited. I don't know about you. We finally made it. I know you in the intro. You're kind of telling everyone that I've been with you through spring, through fall, and not gonna lie, that last week of fall camp, man, it was rough. It was rough. I'm just ready to see Arkansas suit up and hit somebody wearing a different colored jersey, and we made it to game week. So
and it's it's not a scrimmage. It's going to be better than a scrimmage. People are going to be live,
right.
So we're going to get a little bit of a look at stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of anticipation for the next game coming up against Oklahoma State, but this is a game, and we finally get to see. I mean, there's so many new faces out there, and a lot of new young players that we're hoping we'll get a look at that maybe we won't get as much action as the year progresses. But I'm excited too, man. I'm anxious to get down to Little Rock and get this one started. Hey, Connor, I wanted to start you off. You went to Bet Saracen and looked at some of the betting lines that they had and some of the props and stuff. And there's some interesting stuff. Any of this stuff jump out to you? Maybe wild or something you really like?
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest. I'm not the biggest betting expert when it comes to that. I'm relatively new in the gaming space, but I did take a look at it and using what I've seen from fall camp, from spring practices through the off season, I was able to, take a look and see some things that maybe stood out a little bit. I know you're kind of talking about our game by game predictions.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the 5.5 wins is a perfect line, because I think that's really where the fan base is split. You see some teams or some fans are really, dead set that Arkansas is not going to make a bowl game. I know that's how you and I saw it playing out. The team we picked them to go 5-7. And then you've got a lot of the majority of Arkansas fans are, some of them are thinking that they're going to go to a bowl game. So it's right down the middle, 5.5. That's a good number. I think that, I could talk myself into a 6th win. I picked them to go 5-5 or 5-7, but I could really,
I could talk myself into 7, Connor. I could do it. I could do it, but I'm with you. I went with 5.
Yeah. It's there. It's just, man, and we're kind of getting off subject a little bit, but the schedule to start out is just so brutal, man. They're not doing themselves any favors. So that's where it really hurts me and keeps me from, going out on a limb and going 6 or 7 games. But, so I really thought that was a good line. And I would probably stay away from that just because, I could see it going 5, I could see it going 6 and even 7 possibly. But some of the player props really stood out to me. I know Braylon Russell has a prop, but with him being a freshman, I think that they have him here listed, over 199.5 rushing yards and over 4.5 rushing TDs.
Yeah.
That's
saw
at
that one.
plus 145. I mean, I would probably stay away from that just because he's a freshman. You don't really know what kind of role he's going to carve out.
I'm all over that one.
You're all over it?
I'm on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know.
It's not big enough. It's plus 145. So if it was like Jaquindon's is at plus 275, I think I would jump on that just for the value of it. But
right.
Yeah, but Jaquindon at 649 and a half rushing yards and 6.5 rushing TDs at 275. I that's close. That's a close one, I think.
Yeah, I think that one. I think a lot of these are close, and then you also just kind of have to me thinking and being hurt all these past couple of years with players being banged up and missing games due to injuries. That's going to affect some of these. Like you think Luke has over 449 and a half receiving yards, over 48 and a half receptions. You think, well, that's probably easy money considering Bobby Petrino's offense, how much he utilizes tight end, how much Luke has, impressed last season.
Mm-hmm.
You think that would be easy, but he missed all but 4 games last year with a broken clavicle. He's missed time due to a concussion in fall camp. So it's like there's concerns there.
It's a gamble on all of it, right? I mean,
that's the name of the game.
I like the 449 and a half receiving yards for him. The 48 and a half receptions is quite a lot. That's a lot of catches for a tight end.
That's probably what's keeping me from, jumping on that. One that I'm really kind of all over is the Isaiah Satania. His is
I saw that one
over
too.
499 and a half receiving yards, 34 and a half catches. It's still a lot, and it would be a massive jump compared to where he's been in his career. But man, you talk about someone who has impressed, I think, everyone this offseason, including the coaching staff. He's put on some weight, and he's been really, really serious about, taking that next jump and being the go-to guy in the receiver room. Injury question marks with Andrew Armstrong coming into this game, Tyrone Broden, there's some question marks there. So if Satania could emerge as that reliable option for Taylon Green, I mean, that's easy money right there, I think.
Connor, just looking at this game coming up, you picked Arkansas to win, obviously. You've got Arkansas winning 55-7, which isn't covering, barely. And going 1-0. What's your thoughts on this matchup, I guess? And, I mean, it's hard to find a lot about UAPB, obviously. I'm not asking you to go in depth about their roster, but just Arkansas's approach to this one, playing the game in Little Rock. Just curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things going into this game. Let's be honest, we're not going to learn a whole lot about this team. And honestly, most fans are just hoping and praying that this team gets out of there with no significant injuries. Everyone's healthy. You get maybe two really good quarters of your starters and your first string guys getting really comfortable, ironing out all the kinks and everything. And, putting up some points, putting this game away early, and then getting other guys valuable reps and some valuable experience because, injuries are going to come into play later down the road. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the most important part, getting guys really acclimated, ironing out all of the issues from fall camp. Like you've got a new offensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino. There's going to be some issues. We know the play clock's probably going to go out at some point. You've got the new in-helmet communications. You've just got a lot of newness to iron out.
I forgot. I didn't even think about if the in-helmet communication is going to fail, it's going to fail. Rock.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The first series, probably right around whenever the ref says the play clock's going to be kept on the field. Mm-hmm. They're going to have, issues with the in-helmet communication. Yeah. One of the sideline reporters is probably going to have a little, spot saying, I talked to Coach Petrino and he said that the helmet communication, doing one of those special reports. But that there's going to be some adversity. Sam Pittman said that the team hasn't really had a lot of adversity so far. Well, that's probably going to be one of the first things that they're going to have to overcome.
That would be a good test to have that happen in a game like this. But, it's not like hating on Little Rock, obviously. I'm from Central Arkansas. You're from Central Arkansas. We I grew up going to games there at War Memorial Stadium and loved it. It's just hard when you have one game a year, and it's the first game of the season, but when you have one game a year to prepare for and get everything ready, It's a lot. I mean, it's not like you're just used to it and just like, all right, getting the crew back together for this next game. It's just like one game and done. I can imagine it's very difficult to make sure you've, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to your point, I'm like a short 18, 19-minute drive from War Memorial Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up going to every game in Little Rock every year. My parents had season tickets to Little Rock games in the South End Zone. I was there for the Miracle on Markham. I was in 2002, Jones to Birmingham. I was there, for all of the Miracle on Markham 2. I was there for the win against LSU to go to the Sugar Bowl. I've been there. I've been in Little Rock, and my Razorback fandom as a kid really started from me going to Little Rock games with my mom and dad. So if anyone is, able to speak on this, I think that I would be a good person to talk about, because I loved it. And for the longest time, I was all for keeping at least one game every year, but now I don't see any reason to at all. I just think that, it's an older stadium. It always seems to be, there's more negatives than positives coming out of the game. It's, still a little bit of nostalgia there, but really not that much when you're playing UAPB.
Yeah. And it doesn't make any, sure, if you play Tennessee in War Memorial Stadium, the stadium would be completely packed, but you also miss out on all the luxury suites that you have in Fayetteville and all the extra seating and stuff that you would have filled also. So that's where it doesn't make any benefit. Like if they played UAPB in Fayetteville, there's not going to be, it's not going to be packed out stadium. It's just not. So maybe something like that is where it continues to make some sense and stuff. Hey, I wanted to get you on this, Connor, because you're obviously our main basketball guy. Malik Thomas has set a date for his Arkansas visit, 6'4", 175-pound combo guard out of Overtime Elite in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where Carter Knox is from, right?
Yes,
right?
yeah, that's where Carter Knox.
So this dude is number 6 on the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 6 national player, number 2 combo guard, number 2 overall in Georgia. Tell us a little bit about this visit coming up and what you know about Malik Thomas.
So yeah, he was actually supposed to visit on June 25th. I actually did a full breakdown on a visit primer, getting ready for his visit, and then right after I'd set that ready to go and it got published, then we hear that he's actually going to have to reschedule. Something came up with one of the camps that he was going to over the summer. So he was having to reschedule, but that came right after he went and visited UConn, and a lot of the rumor, the talk and stuff like that was that UConn probably had this wrapped up, and it was only a matter of time before he committed. But hey, things change fast with recruits, and it feels like it moves even faster nowadays. But the tides have shifted recently. I've heard that UConn's kind of backed off of him, and Calipari's been on him since the beginning. Over the last 2 years, he's been constant. Malik Thomas, I believe, even visited Calipari over in Kentucky when Calipari was at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So they have a really strong connection. Thomas is from the Midland, Pennsylvania, around Pittsburgh. So there's that connection as well. Obviously a big time player, bona fide 5-star, number 2 combo guard in the class, and would make a really nice pairing with Darius Acuff. I really like where things are headed with him. Obviously, there's still plenty of time. He'll be, like I said, he'll be in Fayetteville September 13th, and I believe that they'll get him out to the UAB game that weekend. But yeah, I really like where things are headed. And I even said after he rescheduled the visit, I was kind of like, I don't really like that he's having to reschedule. And until I see him reschedule an actual date and get him on campus, I'm not going to feel great about it. Well, Calipari is going to get him on campus, and I really like Calipari's chances when he gets someone on campus and gets them around the program.
No doubt. And I really like Darius Acuff. I mean, this guy is
– oh, my gosh, yes.
Stud.
Yeah.
One and done.
Stud.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you get him, and it's just really finding guys who kind of fit around him. But you've got the biggest domino so far has already fallen in your favor. So I think, they're in on a lot of guys who play really well and compare with Acuff. And, there is some question to whether Thomas could play next to him. But honestly, Acuff is so good that I think that you're not going to have a whole lot of trouble finding guys that can fit well next to him. And I don't think it's a big deal, them playing together. And honestly, from what I've heard from people close to Thomas, is that he's actually more and more open to the idea of doing that. So yeah, I think getting Acuff was the most important thing for the Razorbacks so far. They got him, and so now it's just, it should be smooth sailing, getting pieces around him.
All right, Connor. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for hopping on. We'll see you in Little Rock, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm ready to get up there and be my first game in the press box. So I'm looking forward to it. Really excited, and hopefully it's a good experience.
Yep, hope so. All right, brother. Appreciate you.
All
right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Again, follow him at Connor Goodson on Twitter. And, read all his stuff at HawgSports.com. Again, does a lot of great basketball content and of course, football as well. Just kind of jack of all trades. So love having Connor. Okay, so we're going to go some questions now, I guess. We got well over 1,000 people watching the show right now. Appreciate everybody watching. Oh, I saw Nobu, Army of Nobu. That's me. I know who you are. Kansas State and UCF are my Big 12 favorites. What are you talking about, Army? Army of Nobu is an interesting fella on our Razor's Edge message board, which, again, by the way, if you want to sign up at HawgSports, it's 30% off right now at HawgSports.com. Pretty good deal. You can come interact with guys like Army of Nabunga. I'm not even really sure what that is. Somebody knows. I think it's off of maybe a game or something, but got a lot of interesting posters on there and a lot of insiders also. And, of course, we all interact on the Razor's Edge, so come have access to us 24/7. Okay. Don Eldred says he wishes he was smart enough to figure out how to give the podcast a review and 5 stars. I wish you were too, Don. I know you're a loyal listener. I appreciate you listening. That's good enough for me. Yes. Okay. So Sam Melson says, I saw Pittman said that the media access would be lowered in this season. What do you think about that? I expected it after. So this is what they did after now everything's as far as press conference. Well, we don't get Sam Pittman on Wednesday Zoom. We normally get him like one last time for a Zoom, but with the way the week is, we don't get him for that. So he's still on the teleconference on Wednesday, but we're not getting practice access. We haven't had practice access since Florida week, since the week they played Florida after they fired Danny Nuss. Then everything was shut down. So, well, I say that we got spring. We've got basically all but 2 practices in the spring in entirety. We watched all of it, and I hope that continues. I don't know why it wouldn't. I think spring should be open. It's a good time to get a look at new players, and it's always very entertaining, obviously, to watch spring football for me. So I would say I can understand his decision to close down practices because it is a competitive disadvantage. Okay, I get that. Like if there was some kind of rule about not reporting on injuries and things like that, then maybe, but like nobody else is opening practice up like that. Nobody else is allowing, hey, so-and-so wasn't there. Hey, this guy wasn't starting. This guy was starting. And that's kind of the stuff we were doing. And in this day and age, until the NCAA or the SEC makes it mandatory that you have to open a certain number of practices for media, then Arkansas shouldn't do it. And that, me as a media person who wants to go to practice, that's me saying that. Arkansas should have their practices closed. They shouldn't allow me to, if I go and, other media outlets are reporting injury stuff, that's what I need to do, right? And so to me, that's a competitive disadvantage for Arkansas. And they've done it longer than most other schools have. So, yeah, I get it. I understand. Like, we'll report on the games. We'll report on the press conferences. But basically all we're getting out of those 20 minutes that they were allowing in season for us to watch is enough time to write down who's not there. That's basically what we were getting. So I'm fine with it. I still like to go to practices, and I would still go if they opened them. I did every time last year and the year before and the year before that. So I get it. You're late, bud, with the NIL being so prevalent in our sport now. With the Gundy comments, we'll see if the holdout concept success in December. I can see Anderson. I'm not sure what you're talking about. It cracks me up in his pressers, says Timothy Long. Who do you think the captains will be? I I don't hate that. That was something I asked him today also, because I look back last year and they announced captains on August 26th, which was 7 days out from the first game. And here we are just a few days out, 3 days out from the first game. There's no captains announced. But I get it. I mean, last year, if you think about it, like, instead of just saying like, these are your leaders, let's find out who they are throughout the season. I don't hate that. Georgia does it like that. Not a bad team to follow. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Let's find out who wants to lead, who wants to be the leaders on this team. And maybe it changes from who you think are going to be the leaders. I think it probably did last year. I think it probably changed from who they thought were going to be their leaders throughout the season and who actually were. Or maybe they just didn't have enough, period, last year. Chuck R says, given the first half goes as planned, and you guys, you're looking forward to seeing the second half from the second group, offense or defense. Well, I want to see Malachi Singleton. I want to see how he plays just as much as I want to see Taylor Green. Not as much, but almost as much. I think he'll be a better backup quarterback than Malik Hornsby was when this game was played in 2021 and Arkansas didn't score again. But I want to see him. I want to see Braylon Russell get some action. I mean, would love to see that. Those would be the main guys I would think on offense. I want to check out Monty Harrison. I think he'll play in the first half, though. I think we'll see Monty out there in the first half. Defensively, I'm trying to think of who we haven't seen play that will play on defense. Aside from Sorey, I mean, he's going to play in the first half. Dix will play in the first half. There's not a lot of guys. I mean, Selman Bridges maybe. I'm trying to think of guys that are new that will play in the second half that won't play in the first half that I'm really excited to see. There's not a whole lot on defense, actually, that I can think of off the top of my head. Most of them will play earlier. Sam Melson says, how did the lack of media access affect you guys? I mean, it's not ideal, but again, everybody else in the country deals with the same thing. The NCAA needs to change the rule. Or the SEC or whatever, just like they are starting to change rules with releasing injury reports, which I think will be big for gambling. It'll be big for fantasy football in college. Maybe that's something that could really take off. I think fantasy football has done pretty well for the NFL, but you can't do that without injury reports. You just can't. And also allowing media access, because that's really the only main thing that is a reason that I shouldn't be able to go watch some practice, is because of injury reports. And also mandating that every team has to open a Monday or Monday, Tuesday practice or something like that. I think that would be a benefit. I think it'd be benefit for the sport, the exposure, everything would benefit. And since everybody's on an equal playing field as far as the teams go, then that's even too. It's not like somebody's like, oh, we don't want them to find out about this, because you'd have to disclose that information. Nobu says, who's the long snapper, Trey? Quit suspense. Why did you throw that in there? Now this isn't PG. Nobu. We got kids watching this show. My daughter's 11. I know plenty of her friends that are guys that watch this show. Tell me it's their favorite podcast. I'm going to get in trouble with parents now. Oh, what happened? Okay. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank our friends over at Ozarks Go. By the way, if you haven't signed up at Ozarks Go, you can check them out. Promo code is Biddy1, and it's ozarksgo.net/hog to sign up and get a free month of service. But you can't have been a subscriber before. You have to be a first-time subscriber to sign up at Ozarks Go and get the 1 month free. But great internet service. I've been really pleased with them. And yeah, they got a lot of different options. Like you can get the gigabit, which is 1 gigabit. It's going to be different wirelessly. I've had the multi-gig, which, heck, I can't remember. It's so fast I don't even notice it. Like my internet, I turn my TV on. I've got my TV actually hardwired in to the internet, and I mean it's instant. Like there's no like lag or anything. It's just instant. So there's different ways to do it, and or wirelessly with all your devices and stuff. But go check them out, ozarksgo.net/hog. Let me bring up the so you got the phone number right here. ozarksgo.net/hog, 479-684-4900. All right, go check them out. All right, everybody, thanks for hopping on with us. Appreciate again once the podcast reviews. Really appreciate that. Thank you for answering the call on that and making us the most reviewed show and highest rated show in Arkansas. Outstanding. Hell yeah. Thanks to Ozarks Go, our sponsor, of course. And thanks to all of you. Thanks to Connor Goodson. Just a lot of thanks out there. Really appreciative. And we'll be let's see, we don't have a show on Thursday, obviously, in studio. It'll be the walk and talk. So first walk and talk of the season on Thursday. Be sure to check that out. It'll be pretty late because it's 6:30 kickoff, ESPNU from Little Rock, War Memorial Stadium, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. All right, everybody. That's the show today. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.